Hold up, why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bet.
Welcome back, y'all. This is the Double M Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jesus Dinero, here with my co-host,
Puma El Gato.
What do we got going on tonight, my man?
We are talking about the cursed aftermath between Jake Paul and Chavez Jr. Let's talk about it.
So, we had actually already shot a video for this, kind of discussing what we thought about Jake Paul and Chavez Jr. immediately after, like the next day. But as you guys saw, a number of things happened after the fight. A couple days later, basically Chavez Jr. Is getting deported. Apparently, Mexico and the USA believe he has ties to some narcos down south. So the man got himself deported. Let's address this in a couple different ways. First of all, the fight. Listen, man, anyone who's been watching boxing for a long time knows that Chavez Jr. is a disgrace to his family name. I wasn't expecting much. In fact, every time that I commented on any sort of video, any sort of commentary by anybody, I always told people, if you're really hoping that Chavez Jr. is going to be the one to shut Jake Paul down, you got your hopes up for nothing, because Chavez Jr. has never taken the sport of boxing seriously. Yes, he became champion in a really fluke way, in my opinion, and he's just never been the dynasty that his father left behind. So that being said, that's what really happened at that fight. There was no point where Jake Paul was in danger. There was no point where Chavez Jr. gave him any sort of real challenge. It was a joke of a fight. And as Chavez Jr. does, he will show up for a paycheck, no matter who it is, against Anderson Silva, against many of his actual boxing opponents, and now against Jake Paul. So I wasn't taking that all too seriously. In fact, we even debated talking about it, because clearly Chavez Jr. has been a joke for almost the entirety of his career. There came a point where it took a serious dip down. I can't tell you exactly where it was, but in the beginning it looked like he was taking it seriously, and then after a while, clearly he was not. So that's that. It was never a real fight. I know some people are going to get butthurt, especially Jake Paul fans, basically saying we're moving the bar, blah, blah, blah. Listen, man, again, another 40-year-old boxer, another dude clearly out of his prime, another dude that has never taken the sport of boxing seriously. And again, if a lot of people say numbers don't lie. But listen, if you make shit up, the numbers do lie. If I tell you on a piece of paper 2 + 2 = 5, does that mean that 2 + 2 = 5? No, it doesn't. So numbers do in fact lie. Now this is the scenario that's going on with Jake Paul. He picks all these dudes that he's going to beat. In fact, before the Chavez fight, he went on Piers Morgan, and basically Piers Morgan eviscerated him. And in that interview, Jake Paul brought up the fact that he beat Mike Tyson. It's like, bro, are you really using that as a point of pride? Mike Tyson was nearly 60, dude. And this man's still acting like he beat Mike Tyson. But doesn't matter. That's besides the point. Again, shortly after the fight, a couple days after the fight, Chavez Jr. was picked up by ICE. Looks like he's getting deported back to Mexico. Based on what I've read, it looks like, again, the nation of Mexico and the United States both believe that he may have ties to the narcos. Different types of stuff like that. I guess smaller tier jobs. One of the reports that I read was talking about how Chavez Jr. would handle like small tier jobs for the narcos. All but kind of besides the point. One thing that I didn't like that Jake Paul, and this is actually goes out to a lot of people in the boxing world, they play on this little joke. Anytime there's a fighter, a Mexican fighter, even if he's not Mexican, even if he's just from America, but he plays the Mexican heritage card, there's always this little joke of, the deportation, you better watch out before I call ICE, all that type of stuff. I think it's kind of corny, especially when they're from America. But Jake Paul mysteriously made a message or post to love the sport of boxing. You claim to love the Latinos, including the Puerto Ricans and such, all this type of stuff. You claim to be a big fan, and you're going to post some shit like that, which to me seems overtly racist. But again, listen, I'm not here to play that card. I'm not going to be calling Jake Paul racist. I just think, let's be honest, at the very least, it's a fishy thing to say immediately after. But regardless, doesn't matter. It is what it is. I'll be honest with you, I never really took this fight seriously. Jake Paul has been a joke of a boxer ever since he started boxing. His first initial fight, facing a basketball player, facing a bunch of retired MMA stars, facing a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, now facing an old, washed up 40-year-old Chavez Jr., who again has never taken it seriously. And the one guy that Jake Paul fought, that was a boxer, not even in his prime. I mean, maybe an up-and-comer if you want to call him that. I wouldn't call him that. Tommy Fury, and he whooped him. So it goes to show you that if Jake Paul fights anyone near his age, if Jake Paul fights anyone near his stature, he's just not going to win. Again, I'll be honest with you, Jake Paul always looks super sluggish when I see him boxing. He looks super slowed down. It looks like he's throwing punches through water. And listen, I don't doubt that the boy has power. I mean, and this is what other people have claimed. I'm not claiming this, but because of the pimples that this man clearly has all over his body, all over his face, as a 20-something-year-old man, you shouldn't be going through puberty again. But we all know what happens when you take steroids. You get a lot of them pimples. So, again, I'm not accusing him of anything. Other people have accused him of that. It clearly looks shady. It is what it is. But regardless of the fact, up until now, let's be honest, Jake Paul's career has been a joke. Again, he was recently ranked. I understand my man here has an update on that. The fact that he was ranked at all by the WBA is kind of pathetic. But here we are. It just seems that a lot of the world has turned into a joke as of late. But what do you think about that, my man?
Listen, man, the entire thing has been a curse for a number of reasons. By the common metric that's been cursed for boxing is the fact that it's a Jake Paul match. It's gonna be cursed by that metric alone. But if we're gonna be completely real about that, the ramifications of Chavez Jr. turns out having connections to the I think it was the Sinaloan cartel, and him getting deported after that. I was like, look, if he has ties like that, cool. But him getting deported legit not a day after the fight had happened makes you think, okay, so you had to known about it to some degree. If by all metrics, everybody thought that Chavez Jr. had connections like that, cool. You still let the fight happen. Like, what does that really say about the organization as a whole? If you were like, okay, we think he has ties to this, and then a day after, you're like, oh yeah, we found out he has ties. I'm like, cool, but you still let the fight happen for, like, first and foremost. Like, what kind of, like, it makes the entire organization and even Jake Paul's team look kind of shady if this is the kind of people that they're trying to associate with. Boxing events or not, I was like, you're still getting in bed with shady people. And I know boxing has had a history of getting shady people. There's been allegations that Tyson Fury has ties to the I think it was like the Irish mafia in his realm. The fact that boxing as a sport in America has had heavy ties to the Italian mafia in the past, of dating as far back as the 20s, and even the obvious one that we have is Chavez Jr. having ties to the cartel and all that. I understand boxing already kind of has a seedy history, but if you have somebody in the current era that actually has mafia ties, cartel ties, and you're still wanting to deal with them, what does that really say about you as a boxer? And look, on a professional standpoint, the WBA already ranking Jake Paul. I believe it's at number 14. Probably a day or two after the fight had gone down. Already looks kind of. It already kind of throws into question WBA seriousness when it comes to ranking, considering the fact that when the fight started, Chavez himself wasn't really that high ranked at all in cruiserweight, meaning that he basically fought an unranked fighter and got number 14 already at cruiserweight. Absolutely makes no sense. There's actually been new findings apparently as a result of the controversy and backlash as a result of WBA ranking Jake Paul at cruiserweights at number 14. A lot of people voiced their concerns and even having a little bit of controversy of, okay, he fought an unranked fighter and he's already at 14. How does that make sense? So now whether or not he's actually going to be, Jake Paul's actually going to be ranked at number 14 at cruiserweight is going to be called into question. But the fact that it even happened in the first place kind of throws question into legitimacy of WBA and where their ranking is as a boxing organization. But all that aside, the fact that they even did that in the first place, I'm like, really? This is what we're going to go down? An unranked fighter basically fighting a washed-up boxer that never took boxing seriously, and now all of a sudden he's going to be ranked. This entire thing has been absolutely cursed, and look, I'm not going to be the type of person to say that Jake Paul fixed this fight. No, I'm not going to say that, because I do think this was a legitimate fight as far as the actual as far as what actually happened in the ring. I do think, yes, that was legitimate. Was Jake Paul going to beat Chavez Jr.? Absolutely. I do think that was going to be a legitimate possibility. But as far as the as far as the dealings after the fact, the aftermath of it, Chavez getting deported right after, Jake Paul now being ranked at number 14, him saying all that shady stuff about, oh, Canelo's next. I'm like, okay, there's something fishy here. Something reeks about this. This thing has been absolutely cursed, and quite frankly, we still think Jake Paul is an absolute joke in boxing. Not a fixer by any means, but still a joke in the grand scheme of things. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, bro, I'm not gonna lie. I don't care what anybody says. I don't give a fuck how much you ride Jake Paul. There has not been one legitimate fight that he's had. And I'm not saying fixing. I'm saying this man has made a joke out of everything that he's ever done as far as boxing. And again, the one time he faced someone that theoretically he should have beat Tommy Fury. The reason I say he should have beat Tommy Fury is because Tommy Fury wasn't that great of a boxer to begin with. I think he was like 8-0 when he fought him, or 8-1 when he fought him. And then all the people on Tommy Fury's list of wins, they were all nobodies. So he should have beat him. And he couldn't even do that. But yet this man is about to be ranked. It's insane, man. It's insane. I'm kind of... Listen, man, we always have a debate if we're going to cover any of Jake Paul stuff. Mostly because we don't want to add to the stupidity. We don't want to add to the dumb nature of what he does. But unfortunately, not just because of the fight, but also because of the aftermath and what happened afterwards, we have to make sure that we talked about it, because at the very least, we need to point out the hypocrisy in a lot of what Jake Paul's doing, not just in boxing, but in what he says he believes in. Jake Paul, time and time again, I've tried to stand up for some of the shit that Jake Paul has done, brought attention to some of women's boxing. He's lifted up certain boxers. He's paid some of the boxers on his card more than they would get paid by other promoters. All that. I try to give this dude a fair shot. But every time I think to myself, giving this dude a fair shot, he does some snake shit, and it just makes me think, this is exactly why I never praised this dude. It is what it is, man. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the world is being taken over by fucking clowns. So we just got to bear through it. Hopefully something better along comes, because if someone does come along and beat the shit out of Jake Paul, I know we're all, as a collective, going to be celebrating. And with that, make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and
Until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you in the next one.